Welcome to the SEC Unfiltered channel. I'm your host, Dave Shumate, coming at you live on this Black Friday morning. I was supposed to go late last night, but as all of the rest of you parents know out there, ear infections can be a bad thing. So I didn't want to get on, feel like I was in a rush. So just waited till this Black Friday morning. Hey, numbers may be down, but you know what? We're talking college hoops. Can't get any better. We have college football action today too, guys. I know it's a college football or it's a college basketball reaction. We got the Egg Bowl, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and then we got clean old-fashioned hate, Georgia Tech. So that's why you should subscribe, hit the notification bell, get us over 20,000 subscribers on YouTube. This is the best SEC channel on the internet, on the web, whatever you want to call it. SEC Unfiltered, the best you can get from football, basketball, and baseball. I'm your host, Dave Shumate, one of your college football analysts and your lead college basketball analyst. I spent 10 years in the SEC in recruiting departments, graduated from an SEC school. So I feel like I got a pretty good lay of the land of college athletics, guys. But before we get started in this reaction, some massive wins. SEC had a good day yesterday on the hardwood. Don't forget this reaction is sponsored by our guys over at PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com and use code SECU at sign up to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 or more lineup. I always say, people, one of the funnest times I had was at a guys' Labor Day trip. Put some money on Malik Neighbors, Jaden Daniels in that game against Florida State 2 years ago in Orlando. Had a fun time. Tons of prop bets you can go get on. But guys, tell them your buddies over there at SECU sent you, and use that code SECU at sign up to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 or more lineup. But let's get right to it, guys. I'm leading off with a team I had 16th in my rankings this past week. And I was wrong on that, but I think a lot of it was they hadn't really played anybody. But the Oklahoma Sooners getting a massive win on Saturday evening, afternoon, night, whatever you want to call it, over Arizona. Now, is this your grandma's Lute Olson, Arizona Wildcat team? No, I mean, Tommy Lloyd and them have done a good job, but they're 3-3. 24th ranked win, though. Porter Moser and the boys stand undefeated after a first-round win over the Providence Friars in the opening round, but got the win over Arizona 82-77. Let's go share it. Let's share you the box score just so you can have a visual. So let's go to the team stats here first. Obviously, 43% from the field, 3% from three-point range, 41.4%. The thing that gave Oklahoma the advantage this one, look at the free throw percentage, folks. When I was following this game, when I was watching it live, just a foot 20 for 21 from the free throw strike, that's going to win a lot of games. Factor in, they can lower the turnovers. It can only get better for the Sooners. They can only get better. They controlled this game from start to finish, and you know who you got to love here. You know who you got to love, and I think he's the most underrated player in the SEC right now. The true freshman, Jeremiah Fears, playing 33 minutes, 26 points, 4 of 7 from beyond the arc, 7 for 17 from the field, had 5 assists. I mean, the Sooners go as Jeremiah Fears and Kobe Elvis go. It is, and I think Porter Moser is a very good basketball coach. I don't think they've invested the funds necessary to give him what he can go win in this league. I think he's overachieving so far this year. This league's going to be a gauntlet. It is what it is. I don't think there's a bad team in this league. I had them 16th the last 2 weeks. That'll obviously change after this week for the Sooners. But again, I mean, there's a lot to be fired up about here. Is this the most talented team in the league? No. But you also have a guy like Jalen Moore stepping up as well. This was a good test. I was interested in seeing Oklahoma this week because I'm like, they hadn't really played anybody well. I mean, look at the schedule here, folks. They hadn't played anybody going in. I mean, you had games against Lindenwood, Northwestern State, Stetson, East Texas A&M State, who used to be East Texas A&M, used to be Texas A&M Corpus Christi, guys. They've changed their name. Providence, but they play in the championship game today, this evening, 4:30 Central. I forget where, because we change up so much the time zone here, going back from my in-laws and whatnot. But they play Louisville in the championship game. The Bad Boy Mowers battle for Atlantis. I'm fired up about Oklahoma, folks. I really am. I'm excited. Again, is this team going to make the NCAA tournament? I still think it's a little TBD for that. I mean, I think it's a little too early to be talking Kim Palmer, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit. They're at 43 right now. They moved up to 43 at 6-0, just behind 2 other SEC teams in Ole Miss and Arkansas. But I think if you're an Oklahoma fan, you got to be fired up what you've seen so far. And I think you have one of the more underrated that still no one's talking about in Jeremiah Fears. I think this is a very fun basketball team, better than I expected. Is it an NCAA tournament team? I don't know, because I think 2 things can be true at once. Great win against this Arizona team. I don't know how good this Arizona team is. Again, two things can be true at once. I don't know how good this Arizona team is. I don't think it's an Elite Eight. I don't think it's a Sweet 16 team like it was last year. But I still think Oklahoma's better than everyone and myself included. But Oklahoma getting the 82-77 win over the Arizona Wildcats. Let's go to the comments. Volcano, what's up, Dave? Volcano, what's up, Dave? The SEC is stacked in basketball. Our guys, full court. No bad team in the SEC. One could agree, but let's see. No, I'm with you. It's too early to say. I don't think there's just a straight. I don't think anyone's going to go winless in the league like Missouri last year is kind of what I mean by that. Like, I would say South Carolina is probably the worst team right now. I think it's fair. It's fair because, I mean, outside of Colin Murray Bowles, they really have nobody else. And I think teams are just going to double him. I would say South Carolina, as we speak right now on Black Friday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. I'm with you. It's tough to say no one's bad, but let's see what else. Who would have thought that Oklahoma would be playing as well? Yeah, not me. Not me. Again, I've had them lash my power rankings the last 2 weeks, but I will defend myself in saying I think that's because I know that, I mean, the schedule was not difficult. Stetson, Texas A&M, Corpus, they changed names. I mean, again, but give them credit. It's in the past. You got to beat a solid Providence team. We'll see how they finish in the Big East. And I think you got a good win against Arizona. And again, I don't know how good Tommy Lloyd's team is this year. I think they're solid. I just don't know overall how good they're moving in the Big 12. So that'll be interesting to see how they transition. But big win there for Oklahoma and Porter Moser. Give them their flowers. Florida handles the Demon Deacons out in Orlando. Let's go share you that box score just so we can have a visual here. And I can walk you along through it. Florida getting the 75-58 win over Steve Forbes' team. I saw Wake Forest up close when they scrimmaged Alabama in Birmingham a couple weeks ago. And it's kind of the Hunter Salas show. I mean, look, Hunter Salas, 15 points. They go as Hunter Salas goes. It's similar to how Florida kind of goes a little bit with Walter Clayton Jr. But Florida shot 39% from the field, held Wake Forest to 37. Florida 29%. Again, it was a slow start. The first 10 minutes of the game, I went back and watched the highlights, and I was following along for the majority of the game yesterday. But it was like they got off to a slow start. No one could score right off the bat. I mean, I think they missed like 9 straight shots to open the game. Obviously, things didn't get any better for Wake Forest as Florida held them to 15% right there. Florida improved it a little bit with 29%. Out-rebounded by 14. This Florida team, not better than I expected. They're about where I thought they were. I had them 5th going in this week. I still feel that'll be very similar. It was every time you felt like Wake Forest was going to go on a run, Florida just stopped them. Just stopped them in their tracks. Again, Walter Clayton's a walking 20-point-a-night guy at this point. He's not Janai Broom level at this point. And I can't even say Mark Sears right now because he came out of the gate slow. Now, Vegas has helped Mark Sears out. He's been better against Houston and against Rutgers. But I keep saying this every Florida team. Whoever the strength coach is, a lot of these dudes have put on a lot more mass this year. Am I wrong in saying that? They physically just look better. Like, I know that's wild to say. It's coming from somebody who used to work in athletics. So I always was talking to the strength and conditioning coaches, getting updates on our players. Hey, how's this guy's work ethic? How is he gaining mass? We'd show them on official visits, let them get comfortable with the strength and conditioning coach because nobody's ready-made in any sport, football, basketball, and baseball, when you come into a major SEC college program. All these dudes look thick, man, though. I mean, they're a physical basketball team, in my opinion. I mean, you can look at the guards, Elijah Martin and Walter Clayton. I'm like, they've added weight, a good weight. It's like they're sitting there eating hot dogs in the dorm room all night. But even Thomas, the Hawk kid has even added some weight. And Denzel Aberdeen. It's amazing. I'm like, they're the most physically impressive team in the league, like from a mass standpoint. I just wanted to throw that. I had that in my notes sitting right here that I wanted to talk about there. But no, so Florida's going to go advance to play specifically in this. Who they go play? Who they played? Who won that other game? All right, so they'll play Wichita State won that other game. I remember I went to this tournament in 2021, I believe. I think maybe Miami didn't win it. I forgot. Maybe Iona won it that year with Rick Pitino. I went. It used to be a bigger field. This is just a 4-team field now. It's a championship game and then a consolation third place game. I think Florida is going to be a top 5 seed in the tournament. Call me crazy. I think they're going to have a top 25 seed or top 20 seed in the NCAA tournament. I like this Florida team. They're pretty well-rounded. Again, I think they're more physical than they've ever been under Todd Golden. I like that they out-rebounded Wake Forest by 14. And again, I like Wake Forest. They were projected to finish second in the ACC, I do believe. But how good is the ACC this year? I mean, I think that's a fair question. It's a fair question. And I think this Wake Forest team goes is Hunter Salas takes them. And I know Steve Forbes has been getting crapped on a little bit. People like he's overrated. I think he's a good basketball coach. I've seen him up close and personal twice the last 2 years. I like what they do. But again, I'm very impressed with this Florida team. Just physically, they have scores. Will Richards steps up. And Walter Clayton's the consistent foundation. Then it kind of feels like it's been just, you can always rely either on Will Richard or Elijah Martin, the FAU transfer, to come in and help. I think Alex Condon's gotten better, 12 points, 8 boards. Would like to see the blocks get a little bit better. The rim protector, that's what it will be interesting to see how teams start attacking them once we get into conference play. But Florida getting a dominant 75-58 win. After the first 10 minutes of the game, you felt this game was under control. After Florida started settling in, making some shots, they couldn't have shot a ball into the ocean from a boat to open up the game in the first 10 minutes. And you see that. That's why at some point you got to win games in different ways. You're not going to be hot every night from the field. And anyone who's ever played the sport of basketball, now I'd consider myself a pretty good shooter, understands that. But give Todd Golden credit. Big win down in Orlando. They will face Wichita State in the championship game. Michael Anthony, he's going back to Oklahoma here before we move on to Arkansas. Michael Anthony Osborne Sr. Appreciate you listening, brother. Is Porter, talking about Porter Moser, the Oklahoma coach, the right coach for Oklahoma in the long run? He was good at Minnesota, but we're not seeing it here. I'll be honest with you, Michael. In my opinion, from people I've talked to, and again, I'm not overly close to the Oklahoma program. Love our Oklahoma listeners. They've almost embraced us as their SEC Unfiltered channel, and I appreciate that. From what my understanding with Oklahoma basketball is, they don't really have the war chest from an NIL financial standpoint that these other teams in the SEC have committed to now. Like these schools in the SEC, these admins are committing major money to this. The SEC network, when they created the SEC network for Oklahoma fans out there listening, that changed the landscape of SEC basketball. When I was in college, when I was at Alabama, it was really Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida, really Florida. And then Cal was just getting there in 2010 with John Wall, Marcus Cousins, and them in Tennessee. Bruce was there a couple of times. He had Quanzo Martin would have a couple of teams. But that was really it. I remember Alabama finished second in the league one year, but Anthony Grant didn't even make the tournament because their non-conference schedule was so bad. Once Mike Slive created the SEC tournament, he went to all his presidents, ADs, and told them, hey, go get rid of the basketball coaches you have. Go get big-time head coaches. We're going to be able to afford this. The cut we're going to give you from the SEC network is going to be so much. You're going to be hiring some phenomenal basketball coaches. And look who we got in the league now, man. We got multiple Hall of Famers in here. And you got to spend money to make money. And I think that's where Oklahoma is held up a little bit right now. And again, they're one of the more underrated player teams in the entire country right now. I think they have one of the more underrated players in the country in Fears. I think he's not talked about enough. And I think this week he kind of came in his own. And again, I don't think they were talked about because just like me, they hadn't played anybody. So I didn't rank them very hard. This week against Providence and Arizona is just an average to above average team Arizona is. Got to be fired up about it. I'm fired up. I like Porter Moser. Even going back to his, Chicago, Illinois days with Sister Jean. When he got him to the tournament, got him deep in the tournament here. I like them. I remember watching them when they beat Alabama 2 years ago, the Brandon Miller Alabama teams. Oklahoma crushed them in that Big 12 SEC challenge. I think Porter Moser, from an X's O standpoint, is a good basketball coach, fundamental basketball coach. He just doesn't have the war chest, as I like to call it, from an NIL perspective to go take it to the next level yet. Maybe they make the tournament this year. You could have some Sooner fans rally behind that. So I think that's my 2 cents. That's just my 2 cents from looking at it from 35,000 feet. I appreciate the question, Michael. Let's go to the Debbie before we finish with 2 big ones with Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Hogs start slow in Kansas City, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, against Illinois. Not good if you're a Razorback fan. Let's call a spade. Can't be fired up at what's the cohesiveness. I talked about a slow start from Florida. Florida made up for it. Oklahoma couldn't get out of their hole. Arkansas couldn't get out of the hole they built early on. And then Illinois was on fire. I saw Illinois play in person about a week ago in Birmingham. Again, they played Alabama in the CM Newton Classic. And I was somewhat impressed with them, but Alabama, it was kind of the opposite of this game, honestly. Alabama came out after that loss to Purdue, and you could tell they're like, we need this non-conference win at home, essentially in front of our crowd. I know it's a neutral site, but it was in Birmingham. There was actually a decent amount of Illini fan, a lot of orange there, honestly. But you could tell they needed it. They came out a little hungry, Alabama did. They ended up controlling the game very similar to how Illinois, it was never like a 20-point lead, but it was always anywhere from 12 to 18, and you never thought Alabama was going to lose. Felt the same way. It was always a 12-point lead for Illinois yesterday in Kansas City. Never felt like Arkansas was really going to get back in it. They cut it to 9 a couple of times. But Arkansas just got in the hole real early. Just was shooting, I think, like 7% from 3-point land in the first half at one point. But yeah, 48% from the field for Arkansas, 29%. 5 for 17 from beyond the arc. Didn't get out rebounded real bad there. It's just, I mean, I talked to, I did the little snippet video yesterday out in our backyard yesterday, just previewing the weekend or the Thanksgiving Day for Illinois. And the kid I said to look out for, the Croatian, Kasparis Jakusianis, 23 points. He was phenomenal. 2 for 5 beyond the arc, 7 for 13. We had brother-on-brother crime there. Ivisic, we had Big Z, Zavamir Ivisic going against his brother, Tomislav. So that was fun, a little under the radar storyline there. They both kind of got the best of each other. You got Tomislav went for 21 points and 10 boards, and you had Big Z coming over there, 13 points and 6 boards. Just Arkansas could never get out of the hole they created. I mean, that was really what it was. You had the turnovers. I mean, how many turnovers did Arkansas finish with? Just off the top of my head. Let's go to the team stats. Oh, sorry, I didn't share it for you guys. Let me pull it up. Pull up the box score. All right, here we go. Turnovers. Yeah, I mean, both 11 wasn't as bad as I initially thought. I was thinking about something else. Yeah, overall, just the lead. I mean, you saw the largest lead, 17, and Arkansas never led in this game. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, Illinois got out quick and in a hurry. Brad Underwood's squad did and just controlled the game from start to finish. I mean, they did. I mean, look how much better they shot from three. 15 for 31 for 48% compared to 5 for 17 for 29%. That was really the difference. Everything else, I mean, free throws a little bit, 3 more you had. Rebounding wasn't too much different. I mean, just this – they can't get Nelly Davis going. The FAU transfer, we all remember him. There's 2 in this league, actually. Him and Elijah Martin at Florida, we just discussed. Florida can't, I mean, Arkansas just can't get anything going. It just feels like. It's just a weird feel with this team right now. Like I said, I feel like Illinois came into this game off the start like, hey, this is a big win. We lost to an SEC team a week ago. Let's go get that back. And Arkansas took their second loss. Now to Illinois after losing to Baylor 2 weeks ago. But I mean, where do you get going here? I mean, without Adua Thero, the Kentucky transfer, he's one of the more underrated players in the league. It's just not talked about because Arkansas is not playing great right now. They would have got blown out against Baylor if you went back and watched the game. He kept them just staying within that game. Kind of felt like this. He kept them in this game. Janelle Davis, Nelly Davis just can't get going. 1 for 3. I mean, he's not even getting his shots up. It's just, what is the feel on this team? Like, who is supposed to be the dude on this team? And it feels like right now it's Adua Thero, but if that's the case, I just don't know how many conference wins you're going to get. And this was an Arkansas team I was high on. Like I thought they could finish second in the league. Chris thought they'd win the league. I wouldn't go in that high, but I had them second. Maybe they do turn it around. I don't know. This looks like a team that's really coming out of the gates really slow, and I know that's obvious. But here's some opportunities. ACC, SEC Challenge next week at Miami. It feels like a game you need to have. You get a solid Michigan team who won the Fort Myers Classic the other day. Same tournament South Carolina was in, yeah. So, I mean, they have some – those are their 2 big opportunities left, and they probably need to get both before they head into conference play. Obviously, I mean, those are 3 tough conference games right out of the gate. At Tennessee, Ole Miss at home, and Florida. That's tough. That's tough. I'd have to go look at it, but I can't imagine other teams having those. That may be the toughest 3 games start out of conference play of any of the true contenders. And, yes, I'm still keeping Arkansas as a contender. I mean, look at that lineup. And nobody started conference play yet. So, but I think you need to go get these next 2 at Miami, ACC, SEC Challenge, and Michigan. So, I mean, it's not good. Not time to quite press the panic button, but outside of Adua Thero, who steps up at the guard spot? Who steps up in that backcourt? Where's Nelly Davis? I mean, Boogie Flame's a true freshman. We've seen it. You can only rely on those guys so much from that perspective. But getting back to it, Arkansas takes a disappointing, going too far there, going back to the scores. Takes a disappointing loss to Illinois in Kansas City, 90-77. Let's go to more positive news across the league. Ole Miss outlasts BYU in overtime in San Diego. Let me share the screen with you. This is in the Rady's Children's Invitational. Ole Miss will face Purdue today, but they get the 96-85 win over a veteran BYU squad. New coach coming over. Came over from the Phoenix Suns. But for Ole Miss, I mean, you have 4 starters in double digits. Juju Murray keeps doing his thing. I thought Dre Davis had some big putbacks, some offensive rebounds late. Matthew Morrell went out with an injury. It looked like he was limping off, had to be helped. That looked bad. They were reeling at the end of the game. Matthew Morrell goes out with an injury. It's like, God, if you're an Ole Miss fan, you're like, what can we do to get any luck here? Sean Padula, doing his thing. He played pretty well. I thought Malik Dia. Overall, Ole Miss, again, people bash me for having Ole Miss like as high as I do at the 7th spot. I think Coach Adams coming over, the big assistant for Chris Beard, who took over for him at Texas Tech when he went to Texas. He's on staff now, defensive guru. I just like them this year. I do. I think they're going to make the NCAA tournament. This was just a real back and forth game. I liked BYU. I thought BYU looked pretty well. I mean, again, as you can see, there's not much difference in these box scores. 80% from the free throw line for both teams, 31 to 29% from 3-point range, 40%, 48 rebounds, 39 to 37. I mean, turnovers were the difference for BYU. Ole Miss kept it to single digits, and that's where the game was won. That's where it was won. 17-9. Ole Miss, like I mentioned, faces Purdue, who did beat Alabama 2 weeks ago. So massive opportunity here for Ole Miss to get probably their biggest non-conference win in years. Biggest Chris Beard win in his tenure at Ole Miss. And then they still got two more big non-conference games left at Louisville in the ACC Big Ten Challenge or ACC SEC Challenge. And because Louisville plays Oklahoma today in the championship game out in the Bahamas, so we'll get to experience that today. And then obviously at Memphis right before conference play starts in January. I like where this Ole Miss team is. Again, remember Chris Beard, folks, has still not lost a non-conference game. Or sorry, he's undefeated in non-conference play, however you want to phrase it, at Ole Miss. Granted, it was not strong last year. Now they beat a Final Four team, NC State, and they're still undefeated this year. So give Chris Beard and them their flowers. I think they're doing a phenomenal job so far. Let's move across the state. Remember, we got the Egg Bowl in football today. Let's go to Mississippi State. Mississippi State hammers UNLV out in Arizona. They're in that, the Cactus. It's one of – look, everybody's in a tournament this time of year, as we all know. Arizona tip-off. Sorry, they're out in Phoenix. But they got the 80-58 win. This game was really never close, folks. Let me share the box score. This game was really never close, I would say. You got Mississippi State overall finished from 3-point land 40%, 43%. They shot really well. You know what Mississippi State was doing yesterday? And I think Chris James would be really proud. They were making that extra pass. Like Josh Hubbard just wasn't coming down and launching threes. I saw him pass up an open jumper to someone in the corner for a better look, and he drilled it. I think you got to be fired up by like Sean Murphy doing big things, 14 points. You really not outside of the free throw line for Mississippi State, but I feel like that's just almost again, it's not acceptable, but they traditionally struggle with free throw. 55% got to be better than 10 for 18, but just dominated them on the boards by 17, 46 to 29. Really good job by Chris Jans and his team. Just really opening it up right there. I mean, only 10 turnovers. This is about as good as a opening game of a tournament you could ask. UNLV, pretty average. I mean, you saw Mississippi State got that lead up to 28. Phenomenal game across the board. I mean, how many assists did they have in this game? 18 across the board. I mean, even look at Josh Hubbard. That's not normal. We didn't see that a lot last year. 3 points. Only 11 points. But you know what? It's kind of spread out. You get the production from Keyshawn Murphy off the bench like that, 14 points, 13 boards. You're going to take that. This team's better than last year. I think what we miss is who's the front court presence for them? How are they going to replace Tolu Smith? I think Tolu Smith held him back a little bit last year. Call me crazy. I think they were almost so worried about getting him his touches that it hurt the rest of the team. And then when it wasn't Tolu Smith, is hey, Josh Hubbard, just go make a play, do what you got to do. I think this year they're more well-rounded with Claudel Harris. Obviously, I think R.J. Melendez, the Georgia transfer, helps them. Kanye Clary, the Penn State transfer, helps them. I think overall this is a better basketball team. I like where both Mississippi State and Ole Miss sit. Sorry, Mississippi State fans, for putting in when we're talking and discussing your win against UNLV, we said Ole Miss in the same sentence. I apologize about that. But I like where both Mississippi State teams, the state of Mississippi teams, sit heading really after Thanksgiving weekend. But again, we've been running with 24, 25 minutes. Let's look ahead to today's action very quickly before I get you out of here, guys. Remember, I was supposed to do this last night. Dad duty calls. As you parents out there, you guys, I don't have to tell you anything about that. But let's go look at the schedule today in the league. Pulling it up now. There you go. Sorry about that. For whatever reason, it went out on me. Schedule for today. We got a lot of games. We got some games that aren't even involved in a tournament. But for today, we got Tennessee opening up. Tennessee Tech at Vanderbilt. Mark Byington team's opening up. That's 2 o'clock Eastern at Memorial. Vanderbilt favorite on 23.5. Point total 155.5. Vanderbilt should take care of fellow in-state foe Tennessee Tech. Wichita State at Florida in the championship, the ESPN Worldwide Sports Complex. Pretty nice arena. I remember I went to the tournament there a couple years ago. Florida favored by 9.5, over under 154.5. I think Florida takes it home. I think Florida is a really good basketball team. I think they are a top 20 team. I expect them to have a better, have a 5 seed or better than NCAA tournament this week. Another championship game, Oklahoma at it's in the Bahamas against Louisville, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Louisville favored by 3.5, point total 150.5. I don't know. I think Oklahoma's already won this week. If they just go 2-1, I think that was a phenomenal week for them. So I think they're just kind of playing with house money right now. I really do. I think they're totally playing with house money right now across the board in this game. I mean, they really. I mean, you lose this game as long as you don't go get embarrassed. I think you'd be fine. Wouldn't most people say that? I mean, I really do. I think as long as they don't go get embarrassed in this game against Pat Kelsey's crew, I think they'll be fine in this game or across the board in this tournament. I think you're happy with what they went and did in the Bahamas. Let's hope they get the win. They're current 3.5 point underdogs. One of the more interesting games that I'm fired up about: Ole Miss against Purdue in San Diego in the championship game, 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. Eastern. Purdue favored by 3.5, point total 145.5. How Ole Miss's guards guard Fletcher Loyer and Braden Smith will be interesting to me. I'm not real high on the Big Ten this year. I know they beat Alabama. That was at Mackey. This is a neutral floor. Listen, I think this would be one of the bigger wins in Ole Miss basketball history. Call me crazy, but I don't know. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. This is an interesting one. If you really want to keep an eye on a real SEC basketball matchup today, I know there's a lot of football scattered around. This is the one I'd encourage you to keep an eye on. Keep an eye on there at 5 p.m. Eastern. Georgia State at Kentucky, 6 p.m. Eastern on the SEC Network. Kentucky favored about 31.5, 162.5 is the point total. Kentucky's defense led them last week. They finally, or their last game against Western Kentucky early in the week. If they can get back to shooting well, it's going to come on. Again, you can't rely on hot shooting every night, folks. We know this. The defense carried them last week. You like to see that. Let's continue to see that against Georgia State. Northwestern State at LSU, 7 p.m. Eastern. LSU favored by 19.5. Matt McMahon, 142.5 is the point total. Matt McMahon's squad's definitely better. Let's don't see you go struggle this game, though. Let's go handle business at the PMAC. Delaware State at Texas, 8 p.m. Eastern. Texas favored by 34.5, point total 140.5. Texas should handle business. Remember, Rodney Terry, they've got to find someone other than Trey Johnson. And then Butler at Mississippi State in the championship game out in Phoenix. Mississippi State favored by 8.5, over under 46.5. Who did Butler beat again in that semifinals in the other one? Let's look at it. Who did they beat yesterday? Northwestern. That was that close game at the very end. Yeah. Mississippi State, I think, should win this game. I like the Mississippi State team. This Mississippi State team more well-rounded. They're given that extra pass. It's not just a two-man show and Josh Hubbard and Tolu Smith. Remember, I think this team is better without Tolu Smith. Call me crazy. Call me crazy here, guys. But we got a lot of good basketball today. Wichita State and Florida are playing for a trophy. Oklahoma and Louisville are playing for a trophy. Ole Miss, Purdue, which I think is the most underrated game in college basketball today, playing for a trophy. And Butler, Mississippi State playing for a trophy, guys. We got a lot going on, guys. I appreciate you joining me on this reaction. Sorry it's a couple hours behind dad duty calls, but remember, I'm your host, Dave Shumate, lead college basketball analyst for you here at the SEC Unfiltered channel. And this reaction was brought to you by our buddies over at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com. Use code SECU at sign up to get $50 when you play your first $5 or more lineup, guys. I appreciate you joining us. I'll have a reaction for you tonight. Stick with us, man. College basketball season we're in the thick of it. We're not far, guys, from January, from conference play starting wild. We got ACC, SEC challenge next week. So it's not stopping. One of the best times of the year. College football rivalry week, feast week coming at you. We'll have 2 reactions tonight in college football. Myself and Cole Thompson reacting to the Egg Bowl, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and then reacting to clean old-fashioned hate in Athens, Georgia Tech, guys. It's supposed to be a cold front rolling in, guys. So everybody kind of stay warm out there. But I thought the big winner from yesterday, the Oklahoma Sooners, Porter Moser and the boys, I'm telling you, fears, one of the more underrated players in college basketball. I love that freshman. But for Dave Shumate, you have a phenomenal day.